Okay, so let's break down Malthus. So before we understand his theory, let's just understand the graph. So here we've got time. Why it's a line graph is a bit of a timeline. And then on this one we have population. Okay, so what did he say? As we know, Bostrop and Malthus, they kind of agreed the population was growing exponentially. Exponentially means doubling. So 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, and so on. Okay? It's increasing exponentially. Now, that comes from high birth rates and lowering death rates. So this time in the UK, medicine was becoming kind of more scientific, but yet birth rates were still incredibly high. There were still traditional roles for women, a lack of female education, so birth rate was very high. Now, the issue that he saw on the horizon was that, yes, population is growing exponentially, but resource production, aka food, was growing arithmetically. Arithmetically might mean 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? It wasn't growing exponentially, which is kind of doubling. And so he could see this future. And so what he saw is that whilst they were living in a period of abundance, where there was enough resources for the population, in future, it would move to scarcity, where there simply would not be enough resources. And this would lead to kind of something that he called the population trap. And he felt it was inevitable unless growth was controlled. And he said in this trap he would experience positive checks, which is kind of a weird way of saying population crashes. So what he would said, instead of it growing exponentially like so, once we reach the scarcity stage, we would say growth occurring like this, going up and down, and as it could not be sustained, that exponential growth. Now, what did he mean by a check? Well, a check, for example, what caused this check? Well, it could have been a conflict. Two countries fighting over resources to feed their population leads to a population decrease. Okay? It could be a famine. There could be, this is a drought. Let's say there's a drought takes place, an unusual weather event that causes the food chain to collapse. What happened here? Could be a disease, let's draw a disease like this. Like COVID, like Ebola, coming along and causing that check. So he was saying that we'll kind of have these Malthusian collapses, we called them, and they would essentially put a ceiling on what human population could be. Now, Malthus didn't just come up with this theory off the top of his head. He says it's kind of obvious, but in reality, he studied lots of examples from nature. Now, the example he used from nature was rabbits. Okay, when he found that rabbits can breed very, very quickly. Okay, here's one terrible rabbit. And so their population would boom. And then they would proliferate so much that eventually the food source would run out and the rabbit population would collapse. The language he actually used was, what did he say? He said it would be a mass die-off. And he kind of said that these checks that we were experiencing in humanity were demonstrated through mass die-offs in nature. This was pre-evolution, and actually Darwin took this and used it to further his understanding and theory of natural selection. Okay, so this is the Malthus theory. Understand that exponential growth. You can also say, you don't have to say arithmetically, you can say linear growth. I think that's a bit easier in terms of our language. And this causes population checks such as war, famine, and diseases. Okay, so it was quite a pessimistic view of reality. All right, this was really only at the start of the Industrial Revolution was he writing this theory. Okay, so he hadn't seen the wonders of technology and what they could achieve. So this was his theory, and again, like I say, it talked about population collapses.